Welcome back to Take It to the House. This is Drew Robison again here with my friend, Coach Buddy Alexander. We're talking about, Buddy, your experience as an athlete kind of growing up. And right where we left off, you said you had an opportunity to walk on and play at a higher level in baseball. Was that a decision because you had a higher ceiling with potential with baseball? Is that what, instead of walking on as a football player?
Yeah, I definitely recognized that my ceiling was higher in baseball. My decision really, my first decision was which one to play, and I could have walked on at Western Kentucky to play football at that time. This term not used anymore, but they were 1AA.
Right. And Jack Harbaugh.
Jack Harbaugh
was their coach.
It sure was. And so I had that. I remember Coach Flatt called me in and trying to persuade me to maybe go that route, and I told him, I'm probably going to go the baseball route. So my decision was really rather to I was being recruited at the mid-major level as a pitcher, and there was money attached to that. And but I knew what pitchers did in college. You play one day and you run the other four. So I did not want to do that, and I loved playing the game more. So University of Kentucky gave me an opportunity to be an everyday player in the middle infield, so as a shortstop. So that's what I did. So
you went to Kentucky, and what happened then?
I was at Kentucky. I played 1 year at Kentucky, and ended up transferring to. I'm ahead of the game, you see. Ended up transferring to Walter State, which had
You did it before it was cool.
Yeah, really good junior college program, and knew some players that had gone through there before he got drafted. And of course, I thought I was stupid enough to think, hey, I have a chance to get drafted, which I didn't. I got an opportunity I was invited to to be a free agent, but that's not that. I'm smarter than that. But then I just kind of without a home at that point. I went to David Lipscomb University with Ken Dugan. Was there two quarters, and then who is now my wife, who was at every one of those stops with me, had gone back to Kentucky, and like many good careers they end because you want to have a real family. Right. So she won out for sure in the end. I went back to Kentucky to actually be a student this time.
Okay. Okay. And so you finished in Lexington.
I did.
You got your undergrad in Lexington. Now, where did you meet your wife? Where was she from?
She's from good old downtown Bellevue. We met between our 8th grade year and freshman year, and dated ever since.
And was she at Brentwood Academy? Or
No, that's why it worked. She was at St. Cecilia.
Gotcha.
That had never worked if she'd have been in school with me.
So she made a transition to a Nashville private school as well.
She did.
St. Cecilia.
Yeah.
So okay, good. Well, that is really interesting, because I think, as adults, I always would tell kids that I coach. I said, I don't know if this is always true, but I would always tell them, I said, I'm not smarter than you. Sometimes I would be thinking I am smarter than some, but I would say, I'm not smarter than you. I was just born way before you. Mm-hmm. So I've just had some experience, and I've made mistakes, and I've done things that I think are some successes, but it's so great when you as a young person can benefit from somebody else's experience, because it just multiplies your own wisdom and your own life. And so whatever your experience is, you bring that to your role as a coach, and you were a coach first, but then you were a dad as well. So just sort of fast forward through the years, talk a little bit about just your experience as a coach, and kind of simultaneously, when did you become a dad, and then how did coaching help you be a dad, and how did being a dad help you be a coach?
Well, the coaching aspect's pretty interesting, because I've often talked to people about when I first got in. Coach Flatt tugged at me a couple times, and the third time I decided to go ahead and jump in and do it. And a year or two after that, became the head baseball coach here at a way too young age. I was probably not ready for that big of a job yet, but I didn't have a choice. Things happened that put me there. And
how old were you?
24.
So, wow. As a head varsity baseball coach.
Yeah, I think as 24, Maybe it was 26. Maybe I was married at 24.
Okay.
But I think
Yeah.
20, it was mid-20s. I know that. I know I wasn't quite ready. I was feeling it out. I thought I was really good, though, to your point. It took me a year or two to figure out, because I thought, well, I was a good player, and I know some of these people that are coaching. They were coaching when I was playing.
Right.
I can outcoach most of these people, and,
Right.
and that was my mindset. And
Right.
and it took me a year or two to figure out. You know what? It's not how much I know; it's how much my players know that I can give to them, how much they want to take of what we're trying to do.
Right.
And so I quickly went from coaching baseball to coaching people. And I think I've seen that example in the best coaches. I didn't know it at that time, but as I've gotten older, the best coaches that I've seen them have that same type of wisdom, which, Tim Corbin's probably the greatest example.
Yeah.
I'm a lifelong Tennessee fan, but I respect him more than anybody in the coaching ranks because he coached people. The
Right.
game is just the avenue to get to them. And in a way, Coach Flatt was like that. I mean, he was
Yeah.
a little bit more of a disciplinarian than just today's times of can't quite do it the same way he did it. But coaching people is more important than coaching the sport. The sport's just the avenue to get to the heart of who they are.
Well, that's a great point. Coach Corbin is and I walked on, as you know, at football at Vanderbilt, and my wife and I met at Vanderbilt. I finished at a Division III school, did the cool transfer thing before it was cool, and finished Division III playing football. But at Vanderbilt, those of us who pull for Vanderbilt, baseball is kind of the final, light in the woods, because football and basketball have just been, unfortunately, kind of disastrous for Vanderbilt. But Corbin has found a way to navigate success, and I think, to your point, and maybe it goes a little bit back to, you were talking the difference between baseball and football. Sometimes it seems like the way you build a successful baseball program isn't always just bigger, stronger, faster. There's some arm talent with pitching, and he's had some great pitchers that have gone on to do great things in major leagues. And the recruiting kind of, in some ways, it sort of snowballs with your success and with your reputation. But he's built that reputation on coaching people, yet it translates. It's almost the Bill Walsh book from a few years ago. I think the name of the book is something like Winning Takes Care of Itself. And so he basically says, I've never coached to win. I've coached to make men excellent, and the winning has just been the result. And if you focus on winning, you're going to find yourself skipping a few key things in that process to get to that winning goal that are key things that will not sustain itself. And so it's kind of a cool thing. And I fortunately, kind of like Coach Flatt, had Tommy Owen at MBA, and he was not at MBA for as long as Coach Flatt was at Brentwood Academy, but at least in the 80s, those were kind of the two old guys that were the gurus that every other coach in Nashville looked up to. And I mean, I remember being in high school, and I had teammates whose dads played for Coach Owen. And that kind of is, that just gives you an immediate feeling of, okay, this whole deal is bigger than me. Mm-hmm. This is a legacy that I'm kind of getting the honor of jumping onto this treadmill that's been going for long before I came around. And then as a coach, when you sort of get to I guess do some of those things that you were taught. Another coach that I want to mention, because he affected me probably more even than Coach Owen, but I went through Oak Hill School, which you know well because of so many kids that have done that. But Ed Hesse,
Jabbo,
I was like you. We were the two kids that 6, 7, 8 years old were just all we could think about was sports. I was either shooting a basket, throwing a baseball. Yeah, I remember I had a friend. He's now the the head girls basketball coach at Lawson, Brad Bishop, who went to BA for a couple years in middle school. But anyway, he and I are still good friends. But he and I, when we were in kindergarten, we would put on full pads and play one-on-one tackle football for hours. And we would play one-on-one full court basketball. And that was back when my mom was a teacher at Oak Hill. And so kids could just go to the gym and play with no supervision.
Bellevue Community Center for me.
I mean, it's amazing how you can't even unlock a gym now because of liability. But we would be in a gym for hours by ourselves, just playing basketball. And we would fight, and we'd foul each other too much, and then we'd have to calm down, and then we'd get back to it. And I remember in fourth grade, we would play games to 100. And it was really scoring. I mean, we were keeping score.
I can identify with every bit of that. Every bit of it. So just like my Bellevue friends, I know during Christmas break, we used to snow here more.
Right.
If there's any significant snow, there's no calling. You just show up at the same guy's house, and we played triple option foot. We couldn't pass it. We played tackle, triple option football in the snow.
Yeah.
Every single time it snowed. I mean, it was game on. You just knew to get up there and get going.
I lived on a hill. This is a quick thing, but I lived on a hill near Percy Priest Elementary on Otter Creek Road, and we didn't have a basketball goal because our driveway was too steep. But I would walk down the hill. It was about a quarter mile, maybe even a half mile to Percy Priest. But I would go down to Percy Priest, and I remember Christmas break or snow days, I would go down there. I would take my basketball. And a lot of the days it would not be like Nashville. There's not always a lot of snow on the ground, but it's kind of icy, or it might have had some freezing rain. Well, I would shoot the ball, and then the ball would just get stuck because the net was frozen. And so I remember I found this broom, and I would shoot, and I would make it, and then every time I'd have to bang like a piñata, I'd have to bang the broom. Or I'd have to poke the ball back out, but hopefully I could bang the broom and kind of loosen the ice up enough to where eventually, after about 100 shots, the ball would just go through the net. But it's amazing the work that I had to do just to shoot the ball and then get the ball back. But that's just that was life before iPhones, I guess, right?
Oh
yeah. Just as in terms of coaching kids and maybe having to work with families, and also your experience as a dad, what would you say, or what comes to mind when you think about, challenges for parents, anything from, some of us as parents have maybe struggled a little bit with, living vicariously through our kids, where some parents, they want something so bad that they want it more than the kid does. And I think there's a little bit of a nuance or an art to this whole process of parenting, particularly teenagers, where you're literally starting to hand off responsibilities, and you're starting to hand off more natural consequences than, when you're 8 years old and you disobey mom, well, you're going to have to deal with dad when he comes home because there might be some discipline waiting for it, as opposed to these fabricated, you're grounded, you're losing, as opposed to if you get a speeding ticket, well, guess what, you're going to actually have to pay for the speeding ticket, or you're going to have to start paying for insurance. There's natural consequences that make kids more responsible, and that kind of can relate to a parent that maybe wants that kid to play a certain college more than the kid does. So how do you navigate that, as you've seen with other parents, but also yourself maybe as a dad? I don't know, with your own kids.
I was going to say, it's an interesting question as I reflect on it. The first thing I would say is God knew what he was doing and gave me two daughters, neither one of which have an athletic bone in their body.
Oh, wow.
And I love them. One of them I gently cut in seventh grade basketball.
How did that go?
It was very tense for about 2 evenings, and then when she figured out there's that didn't bother me as much as it bothered her. She was fine.
Was it painful for her because she was disappointed, or was it more that she was disappointing you?
She was relieved because she knew she wasn't athletic, and she was just playing because, one, we've kind of have the unwritten rule around here that you got to play something,
right?
And so She was more relieved. My other daughter was a dancer and told me how stupid athletics were all the time.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, not literally, but just with her
Right.
interest just lied elsewhere. You know, and I reflect as far as being a parent. I had a son that played here, and it's interesting because I do not recall ever giving him instruction on the football field, basketball court, or baseball field. Even though I was his head coach in baseball,
Yeah.
I relied on my assistant coaches to.
Yeah.
I never wanted to have the appearance that I was favoring him or gravitating him, and I did the exact opposite, and I probably did him a disservice. I didn't coach him at all, and we did a good job of not talking about it at home. And through that process, I realized that he was just playing because it was fun. He didn't have a desire to play beyond high school.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up on that fairly quickly, and so I never really pushed him all the way through.
Right.
Sometimes I regret that. My wife didn't enjoy that I didn't coach him as evenly as I coached other people's kids.
Right.
I get that, but I could sense it, and it was best for our relationship if we didn't.
Right.
If that wasn't a topic of conversation.
Yep.
To this day, he and I absolutely love sports together.
Yeah.
So in the long run, I won. So because we call each other, talk to each other, watch games together. We still have the same love for it. He just didn't want to pursue it as a player as much as I did. So I'm glad I didn't push that to any degree.
Right. Well, yeah, and I guess I'm gonna pause again just because we're getting a little long on this segment, but I want to come back and sort of wrap up the parenting idea as it relates to having a relationship with your grown kids, which you do now, and then also maybe what you see in some of the parents, because I know you and I for a few years now, most of the kids that we've coached, their parents are a lot younger than us. Mm-hmm. And so in a way, you're coaching their kid, but you're also interacting some with parents. And I have found that it was kind of strange, but parents kind of looked at me differently than I was used to. And sometimes parents would just come to me and they would almost just assume that I had a lot of answers for them, not even about the sport, but just about general parenting advice. And the older I got, and I guess maybe it's, I don't know, the gray whiskers or something, but anyway. But we're gonna be back and keep going. We'll be in another segment in just a minute. This is Take It to the House.